Welcome, welcome, welcome to a special edition of Facing the Nation. Today, we will be sitting down with two persons who are no strangers as we seek to discuss the cost of living mitigation plan that was released by the government 2 days ago, I believe it was. I want you to call up a friend, call up a neighbor, tell them a special edition of Facing the Nation is on this Saturday morning. As you do your little cleanup, you're doing your work in the house. Turn it on and listen to what we have to say. Let's talk about what's going on, and let's really open up the discussion about what is happening in Guyana and what the government is currently doing. Allow me to introduce my guest for today. As I said, we'll be speaking to two persons. My first guest will be none other than the chairman of the People's National Congress Reform. He is also the shadow minister of natural resource, Mr. Sherwin Holder. Welcome to the program. And with him, we will also have Mr. Elson Lowe, who is the treasurer of the People's National Congress Reform and an economist. So buckle down. Today's conversation is going to be a good one. Welcome to you, fellas.
Hello, hello. Good to be back. Good to be on your program as always, Shaneika.
Good
Thank you.
morning.
Good
Morning to
morning.
you and morning to your listening and viewing audience. Sorry about the video. I'm out of town and the internet is not too well. So we'll have to work with what we have here.
We understand. We understand. We have a lot of things going on, including issues with internet, issues with light, issues with water. The country is filled of those at this current moment. But we will make do with what we have. So today's program, we are basically going to seek to, go through what I will call the so-called cost of living mitigation plan, strategy, whatever the government wants to call it today. And, let us discuss it and, really see what it is and call it what it actually is after we would have examined it. I want to start off on the hottest point of it all. This is what is trending on every social media page. Everybody's talking about it, the young, the old, people living overseas that think they got a property here. Everybody's talking about it. This $200,000 cash grant. Let us start there. Elson, I'll start with you, Chairman. Don't mind me. I want to start with the economist and then we'll get into the political side of it. But let me start with
No
Elson
problem.
on this. Your thoughts on the 200,000 cash grant.
Well, thanks very much, Shaneika. The first thing I would say is that it is not the government's idea to produce this cash grant. We've been talking about it for 2 years now. We've said that due to the war in Ukraine, there was a surplus 60 billion, an unexpected 60 billion that was earned because of that high oil price, and that money should be distributed to ease the cost of living. Of course, the war in Ukraine sent the price of food up. Lots of grain shipments and wheat and so on were not could not be produced, and there was a lot of disruption in shipping and whatnot. And so we said, since the country is making more money unexpectedly from this, let's use that money to compensate for the cost of living crisis. That fell on deaf ears for 2 years. And
Mhm.
we've said it probably five or six times at our press conferences and at various speeches. We've continued to say that money needs to be distributed. Now the government has finally capitulated to what we've been saying all along and put out a cash grant from that same $60 billion.
Mhm.
But it is too little too late, because people have been suffering for 2 years now when the money has been sitting there available to be used. That's the first thing to say about this cash grant. The second thing to say is that the cash grant is only Part of what we said, we had advanced a long list of other measures to deal with the cost of living. But you know, the
Mm-hmm.
PPP, because they're only playing electoral gimmicks and politics, they're not going to focus on the other policies which are require some effort and some planning and some execution. They just want to focus on the one that will be catchy. And so
Mm-hmm.
we anticipate that we'll continue to see inflation because the other policies are not being implemented.
All right, Mr. Sherwin Holder, your take. Let as we start on this.
Well, I'm not going to take a position that is much different from Elson's
Mm-hmm.
position, or the party's position rather. We believe that cash should be given to the people directly or indirectly. We have been calling for this. If you go back and check, since 2022, several press conferences throughout 2022, we've been calling for it. We've identified where we could get the money from very early. We would have identified that, as Elson stated. You had that windfall of about 300 million US, sorry. So it means that you hadn't to go into your pocket, so to speak. Cash was there, readily available, and it could have done and it should have been done since then to bring relief. Because you would recall, since 2020, we came out of COVID, and then we had, under this government, crisis after crisis. You had flood, COVID did its damage, you had flooding, you had several things. The cost of living going up drastically and continues to go up drastically. And so people have been suffering, I want to say, for the last 4 years, not even 2 years, but maybe more intensely. It's been intensified in the last 2 years. But over the course of the 4 years the PPP has been in power, the nation has been struggling. And we, as an opposition, has always given support to the government and pressured them to give something to the people. And it is unfortunate at this time that they now are running to this measure. Some people are saying, too late, too late. There's a saying there, but the point is that it is very, very late at the 11th hour when things
Mm-hmm.
are so bad with people. And eh, when you reach to a particular state, sometimes it's hard to recover. And I believe that is where the nation is at this point. It is very difficult for persons to recover from the position that they're in. And $200,000, while we welcome it, anything for the poor we must welcome, but it won't. That is just a plaster on the sore, so to speak, without implementing a series of other measures in a holistic way, in a structured way. We will not see people's lives really being transformed in a meaningful way.
Now, I know it is, of course, your positions that people must take this money because at the end of the day, it is the taxpayers' money. If we don't take it, they will steal it. Now, the other thing that the social media has been talking about with this cash grant is that people are reminiscing on the COVID relief cash grant, where many persons received what they call the pink slip, you know, and they were told that they will come back, they will visit because, like then, there was a confusion of what constituted a household. And in different areas, people were told different things. I mean, we understand the major corruption of the PPP in its full fashion and style, that certain areas got it without a question. But when you went to some areas, then you said, only one person or the owner of the property, and you had all of this happening, which caused thousands of Guyanese to receive pink slips, and to date in 2024 has not even received that little $25,000, and now there is the talk of the 200,000, and people are again wondering what will happen. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a real concern that people will be missed as they were missed in the past. That to me is a perfect example of a government which does poor planning and which is not able to execute even on the plans that they have, unless it is that they intended not to give Guyanese this cash grant, which is another question. But now going forward, we're hearing a couple of concerning things from the government. The first being they're going to rely on electricity and water bills.
Mm-hmm.
They've mentioned that they believe that renters should get this cash grant, but as many Guyanese would know, those who are renting, the electricity and water could be included in your rent, and so your landlords
Very
need
north.
all of those
Mm-hmm.
bills. Does that
Correct.
mean that those people are going to be missed all over again? That is not acceptable. The government needs to have a more sophisticated approach when it comes to this. The other thing that we're hearing is that in order for them to even produce this, it's going to take them 5 months before they can pay out this cash grant because they have to do all sorts of preparation and so on. But that clearly means that they did not conduct the preparation they needed to before making this announcement. And so the cash grant will arrive all the way in, I don't know, February. I mean, that to me is pretty absurd. It's definitely going to
Mm-hmm.
miss Christmas. Now, really, to me, the simple thing here is if they want to make use of electricity bills and water bills and so on, they just need to, first of all, have a 1 month period where people who are renting can come in and make a claim to say that, oh, well, we have multiple people in this particular house, upstairs, downstairs, etc., etc. You check on that, and you can pay out the cash in the meanwhile, and then deal with the additional households once that 1 month period has elapsed and people have been able to make their claim. But you can only do that if you have prepared, if you set up maybe some locations around the country that people can come in and make their claims, and so
Mm-hmm.
that thing can run smoothly. Instead, they made an announcement wildly. They copied what we said. They made an announcement on it, and then now they're scrambling as to how to actually implement this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are several Guyanese, as you're mentioning, when it comes to pink slips. Multiple Guyanese have already come up to me to say, man, I got a pink slip last time. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. There's real anxiety, and people are saying, as much you may have seen this on social media, people are saying they're staying home. They're staying home. They don't want to get a pink slip again. They're staying home
Correct.
till this cashier out. I mean, that's ridiculous. The government needs to do a better job than it did last time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Chairman.
Yeah, look, it is no surprise that the PPP is going down this route again. Elson hinted at incompetence. I will say it's more deliberate because, or maybe it's a mixture of both.
It's hard
Because
to tell with them.
when you have this kind of confusion, it
Mm-hmm.
presents the situation for corruption. And we know that the PPP likes corruption. And so they would have learned some lessons or should have learned some lessons from the COVID relief grant. They should have learned the same lessons from the flood relief grant and so many other grants. There's always a bundle of corruption in it. And they come here now and make this hurry up, if I can use that term, this hurry up announcement, in which this thing now is going to take place till sometime next year, maybe not even in 5 months. And
Mm-hmm.
you're stuck with all these problems now. People right away because Guyanese know, they know what they went through. And
Mm-hmm.
so the question of what constitutes a household is on the forefront again, and that is where the corruption will be because we know what happened during the COVID time. Certain PPP stronghold areas and certain friends and family areas, they
Mm-hmm.
went in and every single person in those homes got monies, while at the same time in other areas they denied certain people, and not only people who support or don't support PVP supporters all got the short end of the stick. Some of them fell into that bundle as well. Poor
Mm-hmm.
people, mostly poor people. You don't look this thing about light bill and water bill. A lot of the poor people who needs this cash doesn't have that.
Correct.
They don't have their names on any bills. They
Mm-hmm.
don't own anything, and they are
Mm-hmm.
the most vulnerable people. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so stupid for Barra Jagdeo to come out and say, well, he had to say something because when pressed, they don't have a plan clearly. And so he had to say something. He came out back after people started to criticize over this light bill thing. Last night, I saw a glimpse of something. He said, well, it's not only light bill or what bill. Those that rent in, we want them to get the money too, and they will have to show like their contract. Well, that too, people don't even have that. People don't even have contractual. It's more verbal than anything else. They don't have anything in black and white. And so we're seeing clearly that these people will be shortchanged, and those monies will find their way in the pockets of friends, family, and favorites of the People's Progressive Party. Nothing less will happen. I saw an interesting post from Chow Pao while I was traveling. And it made sense. I don't know if you guys said, because it questions the equity in this distribution. Now, you say a household, $200,000 per household,
Mm-hmm.
but households will vary. As we know, a
Yeah.
household could be me alone. I'm a bachelor. I should get it, should I not? Now
Correct.
you have from one to maybe 10, maybe more. You understand me? Maybe multiple families as well in the sharing the same space, but they cook in different pots. So they're different household. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
you give $200,000 to the single man, or just a single parent, as against one that has a mother that has 4 children, 5, 6 children. The effect, it is not equitable, because that $200,000 is like nothing to her compared to somebody who is singularly living. So going back to Chow Pau's post, and it made sense to me. He said, look, why not take the $60 billion and divide it by 800,000 people, if we saying that 800,000 people, man, woman, and child, live in this country.
And
And
give it.
we give 75, that equates to $75,000 per person, whether you're a baby, whether you're an adult, an elderly, whatever. It makes more sense. I'm not saying that that is the model we will follow, but off the bat, at least we're going in a direction of equity. Because if you have a family of three, it's three times 75. If you got a family of six, then it's six times that 75. So everybody gets something,
Mm-hmm.
So there is no quarrel. There is no, because sometimes too within the family, who determines who should get this money? All right, it's 200,000 per household, but who should get the money? Is it the mother that is home there struggling, or is it the father that isn't contributing much and only drinking rum or something? He goes with his ID and he collects that money and spends it out and don't do anything for his children. It is a complex issue, as Elson outlined, and therefore you have to have a sophisticated system to deal with it, to deal with all these issues surrounding what constitutes a household. I don't believe that the PPP thought this thing through properly, or again, it could just be a means of siphoning off the money, so you create enough confusion to do it.
One of the things I think we constantly have to say, and we keep saying every time we talk about this government, it's a government that does not plan, they do not sort or try to reason any real policy out. They just wake up, like the president told the international media house, that they make it up as they go along. And every time we see they present something to this nation, that is exactly what we're seeing. No thought being put into it. Another aspect that people are talking about, are we doing the same thing again with the 25,000? Does this mean that you can send two police with two PPP operatives with bag loads of money of $200,000 around this country with the crime rate that we already have? If there did they think out an actual mechanism to give these monies out, considering that, these are the issues that are being brought forward as this has been presented. And I say, the government does not think anything through. I think, Elson, you wanted to say something, and then I will get on to the other point that I want to move on to. I saw you wanted to say something. All right. I feel we have a little pause there with Elson, but I want us to understand that that is what we are actually seeing with they put what the government puts out. It is an issue where you just see, plans being talked about, announcements being made, and there is no real thought put into this. And then when it's put out, we have a lot of confusion. Chairman, are you still with me?
Yes, I'm with you and I'm following. I'm following. And you're
All right.
absolutely right. Because if I could just give you a little example of that, with the gas to shore project, they they did it first of all without any studies
Mhm.
in terms of where the plant should be and all of that. No studies done there. They completed a pipeline, and at the end of that, then trying to figure out what to do with the gas, with the excess gas. It's a
Mhm.
typical case of putting the cart before the horse. That is how the PPP operates. So I'm not surprised when we see this thing roll out and they don't have a plan to deal with it.
I think as well, I saw this morning in the newspaper, or not on the newspaper, it was some sort of, yeah, or an article this morning where I'm seeing that we heard when the president made the speech that he says that this 200,000 cash grant will be unveiled immediately as soon as it is done, etc. And now we're seeing this morning that we're being told it will not be handed out before Christmas. Now, to me, this in itself tells you that the conversations that were invoked because of this would have then caused them to realize, oh my, we didn't think this through. So we need some more time to put things in place, or it was simply the election gimmick that most of the population feel it is. That they're holding these things back just before election to try to bribe or bamboozle the population. But I want them to know Guyanese people are smart. Elton, your
Yeah,
thoughts on
absolutely. I just had a little connection problem there.
I realize.
One of the things that really want to highlight is that because of this lack of planning and lack of really thinking this thing through, not only is this delayed, it is not going to benefit a lot of low income families at
Mhm.
all and benefit high income families quite substantially. What you saw with the COVID 19 cash grant is that wealthy neighborhoods were getting that money at pretty much the same time as a lot of poor neighborhoods. I always remember Sophia was one of the last neighborhoods to get that grant when those are the people who need it the most. Now, again, you're seeing poor planning because if they're going to be looking at for renters, your contract that you're renting with, there's a lot of people who are squatting across Guyana, some of the lowest income people who will not have a GPL bill, will not have a GWI bill, will not have a rental contract. And the consequences of that is that they could very easily be missed by such a program. On the flip
Mhm.
side, you have a lot of wealthy households who will have all the documentation in the world, and
Correct.
those wealthy households are benefiting from the same money that poor households are missing out on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the tragedies of poor planning, where wealthy households are benefiting, poor households are not benefiting. The people who need it the most are not getting it, and the people who need it the most get it last. That
Mm-hmm.
is just tragic. Them talking again about using checks and bank transfers and so on. While yes, that has got to be a part of the strategy, there's a large portion of poor Guyanese who do not have bank accounts, who are
Mm-hmm.
unbanked. Those Guyanese need to be catered for as well. Otherwise, you're gonna miss these low income people. The PPP, when they give out these types of benefits, they give it out like people who really don't want to give out the benefit. The people who most need it are often ignored, and they just make sure that the people who are in their corner, or their friends, family, and favorites, they get through definitely. And those who
Mm-hmm.
actually need the money are the last in the line.
Mm-hmm. Chairman.
Yeah, well, look, we we will have to take. I just want to talk a little about our approach. We will have to definitely take a different approach to this whole issue of dealing with the poor, dealing with the country as a whole, and especially in the context of the resources that we now have, and in the context of making people's lives better. Our
Mm-hmm.
approach will be one where we focus heavily on the poor and the vulnerable communities, and people, single parents, those are the kind of people, children. We will have infants. We will have a heavy focus on that. Whatever programs we roll out, it will be well structured and geared at actually improving the lives of our people. There is no point in saying that we are progressing as a country when half the nation is still struggling to make ends meet. And so, we
Yeah.
we will take a different approach towards cash grants. And as we said, cash grant is not the only thing that will work here. I should make this point, and people can see that it is through opposition pressure, and because of the fact that we're entering into this elections period,
Mm-hmm.
that the
Mm-hmm.
PPP has chosen to do this. Um, yeah,
All right.
thought I lost you. You guys hearing me?
We're hearing you.
Oh yes. I was saying it is pressure that we brought to bear on the PPP, and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they're in this we're getting into this elections mode, that they chose to run out with these measures half baked as they are. Bar you just a few weeks ago, and constantly over the last year has been saying that, APNO only want to share out the money to so that people could eat it out, and it will cause inflation, and a whole host of excuses he had just weeks ago, um, putting out these excuses why they should not be giving the money to the people. And then here comes November, and they're making this kind of wishy-washy announcement. A total 180-degree turn. So my question is, will it not cause inflation at this point? Just asking Barrett you that question. What happened now? What happened about what happened, whatever happened with us eating out the money. I'm happy that that the operator has
Correct. That's what he
the,
said.
the thing. This guy is a hypocrite. He's a liar. He's a hypocrite. The people cannot believe him. They cannot trust him. He blames everybody else other than himself and the People's Progressive Party. And so Guyanese has got to see this thing for what it really is. It is an
Mm-hmm.
election gimmick. It is
Mm-hmm.
something to calm the nerves of people. And let me tell you what they will do. Let me tell you what they will do. As we approach, we're already hearing that this thing will only come out in the next 5 months, maybe longer. And they will begin to register people in a haphazard way, and make the population, especially the poor, become nervous because people
Yeah,
need this money. need this money.
Shanika, I
What
can
do they?
speak a bit on to the chairman's point on inflation. I can speak a bit to the chairman's point on inflation
Yeah,
as well. I
yeah.
think he's breaking up a bit.
1 second.
I don't know if you're hearing him.
Yes, we're hearing him. Let him finish and then you can step in.
Yes. Thank you, thank you. Now, they what they will do, what they will do is to hold this registration
Oh,
process or this $200,000 over the heads of persons. So people will be afraid to come out to support APNO. People will be afraid to campaign. They are going to use this to say, well, if you're seen with the APNO or the PNC, then you won't get this $200,000. That is the aim of this thing, to keep the campaign on and to control that campaign, that will be happening in the next year. That is what this thing is actually aimed at. But people have got to be smarter than that. We are going to get government. We believe that we will get government whenever they call those elections. We are going to give cash transfers. We're going to deal with people. If they try to cut you out, we will ensure that every single person or family gets whatever resources are available. And so my message is that do not be afraid. Do not let them hold this over your heads. Expose them. If they're refusing to register you, expose them, or whatever crookery they're doing throughout this transfer. We have to collectively as a nation, we have to watch them and expose them. Over to you.
Elvin.
yes, absolutely. The chairman made a point on inflation, which is important for us to speak about from two fronts. The first being that the PVP just recently refused to give teachers a substantial increase because
Correct.
they claim that it was inflationary, it's going to cause problems. Can't
Hmm.
give the teachers were on strike for a prolonged period, and now
Correct.
all of a sudden inflation is not a problem. That shows that it is not that inflation is the issue. They just did not want to give teachers any money.
Hmm.
They are mean spirited and they're not interested in education and educating our young people. The second thing to note is that the PvP, because they're just doing snatching the ideas that jump out, they're not properly dealing with the inflation and the cost of living problem in the country. We put forward a raft of measures, whether it is giving farmers grants so they can buy equipment, whether it is providing vouchers, fuel vouchers to those who are providing transportation for goods from the farm to the market, whether
Hmm.
it is developing agriculture in various regions so that we can reduce transportation costs between regions. We've spoken at length about various ways that you can bring down the cost of local food stuff, and as a result, deal with the inflation problem, in addition to providing the cash grant relief. They're not focused on that at all.
Hmm.
Their measures have not they've been minimal measures, and in fact they put minimal amounts towards this over the course of their entire time in office. That is so critical. The other thing that has been a factor and has been a negative factor in the way that they've governed is that they have presided over a prolonged foreign currency shortage. You talk to business people, they can't get foreign currency. So they have to go to the
Hmm.
black market and pay a higher
Hmm.
price. What they've been doing as a result of that is passing on these higher prices for imported goods to consumers. So if the PVP is going to put out this $60 billion into the economy without ensuring that there's adequate US dollar currency and other currencies in the market to ensure that we keep that exchange rate from going too high, to ensure that people don't have to run to the black market. If they're not going to manage the exchange rate properly, you're going to have inflation based on the people having to go to that black market. That is just a typical example of how, if you're not thinking this thing through and planning it, if your
Hmm.
policies are just copycat policies and not genuine policies, you can end up causing harm rather than doing good. We have
Hmm.
for substantial, well thought out policies. We've assessed different areas that these policies the different impact they have, and we've put forward measures to deal with those particular areas of impact. That's not the
Hmm.
way the PPP is governing at all.
Yeah. No, what you said there is very important because exactly that's what we're seeing every time, they put out these plans. I want us to talk now about the two sets of $10,000 that we're hearing about. On one hand, they are talking about $10,000 per child for healthcare. And then on the other hand, there is $10,000 that will come off every month from a parent who is paying taxes um, every month. That parent, and as it was unveiled, it is believed that one parent will receive that tax deduction, however they're describing this. I want to start by saying that the $10,000 for healthcare, in my view, it is an admission by the PPPC that our healthcare sector has apparently gone to crisis under their hands. The Constitution of Guyana says that health care should be free for everybody. So the fact that you have to put $10,000 per child for some form of health care in itself, to me, speaks to that. And on the other hand, the other $10,000, I want to understand, how do they arrive at which parent, one, gets the $10,000, or two, what happens to the parents who do not pay taxes? Because bearing in mind, we keep saying the people who really need these monies, the persons who are at the bottom, the persons who need the push, in many cases, they don't pay any taxes. What How does that align for when you raise the threshold and those persons aren't paying taxes? What happens then? Let's talk about that. I don't know who wants to go first.
Well, maybe I can go because Elsa seemed to be off, and you're absolutely right. The $10,000, it says clearly that the health system is definitely not working. We when we get government, we will have to revamp that entire system. We see them building new hospitals, new buildings, constructing new hospitals around a few new hospitals around the country. But the existing hospitals are in a dilapidated state. Many of them. I visited the charity hospital just a few weeks ago, and if you see the condition that those healthcare workers and providers have to work under, the
Mhm.
AC is not working, the power supply going on and off. I was sitting next to a fan there, and it was going like from zero to full every 2 minutes, and I had to inquire what really is going on here. They said for a very long time the hospital has been like that. The power is just going up and down. So the
Mhm.
Cs are not working. I spoke to some of the doctors there, they said that, the condition is so bad, but because of their love for treating people, and they take their job seriously, and they bear up with it. So the point I'm
Mhm.
making is that some of these critical hospitals, and Charity is a hospital which serves all persons all the way coming from Morocco, which is another region, but they have
Mhm.
not really done anything there. And the same we could say at Saudi and many other hospitals around the country. They seem to be
Mhm.
focusing on these new infrastructure projects. I want to call them not hospitals, but infrastructure projects worth billions of dollars, where they can siphon off the monies. Again, that is the primary focus, not actually providing. if I can say, universal healthcare or healthcare, which or comprehensive healthcare in
Mm-hmm.
this country, where you can have access to free MRI, CAT scan, whatever, all these different
Mm-hmm.
things. We saw them do the same thing with these folks that suffer from these kidney problems, the dialysis. They
Mm-hmm.
prefer naturally to give out the monies so that what? That those monies go to the private institutions. This is another way of funding friends, family, and favorites. And that is what the $10,000 is doing there. It is going to go to these private institutions and fund them. And these are all friends and family of the People's Progressive Party. So that is another view that I have. When we get in the government, we will have to ensure that all our health facilities are well equipped, and not only the institution, but the physical institution in terms of equipment and the infrastructure, but also that the people who work there are
Mm-hmm.
well paid, are properly paid. um
Mm-hmm.
we have a program where we're saying, I think the leader of the opposition just announced it, that we will focus on carrying the tax threshold all the way to $400,000. So all those who work for under 400,000 won't pay any tax. For example, if you work for $500,000, that's above 100,000 above, you will only pay on the difference. And so we'll ensure that everybody, those that really need it at the bottom, benefit from that. Now, in terms of this child care, 10,000 as well, we have a different approach. We will fix the hospitals, etc., but we too will look at providing some assistance to children. We love children, and we want them to be healthy. We want them to be educated, and we will provide in our program $10,000 for a child, and it doesn't matter if the mother paying tax or she ain't paying tax. That doesn't matter. From 0 to 16 years, but from baby stage all the way to 16 years, we will provide a grant, and it doesn't matter whether that parent or the parents are paying taxes, because those we understand that half of this population is struggling and need that kind of help. And so we will provide, as the next government, we will provide that help for our people.
All right. Be sure to note, though, before the end of the program, I will put up some of our policies that we have recently discussed so that we can tap into that as well to,
Oh,
um, highlight the audience. Mr. Lowe, we're talking about the two ten
Yes,
thousand.
Sharon touched
Mhm.
on a couple critical points there, and yes, you also mentioned a couple critical points yourself there, Shanika. One of the things that we want to highlight here is that it is absurd that the PPP thinks that the $10,000 healthcare grant substitutes for investing in our nurses so that we can actually have a healthcare system that is well staffed, and a healthcare system in which these hospitals that they're building all over the place are actually going to be able to deliver quality healthcare rather
Mhm.
than paying nurses and doctors what they should have been paying them in the same way that they refuse to pay teachers.
Pay the
They're
teachers.
giving out these small grants in an effort to kind of put a band-aid over the system, pun not intended. That's
Mhm.
the first question that I think we really have to ask them is what exactly is going on if this is your strategy. This is a ridiculous strategy. Not to mention the fact that nurses, teachers, and doctors, as all public servants, deserve to have a comfortable wage if your country is, as you say, growing so much and is that there's so much
Mhm.
revenue that is coming in. The next thing that we want to highlight here is that it is a failure of policy to design a tax grant or a tax allowance for children, a $10,000 tax allowance for children, which
Mhm.
will therefore benefit those who pay taxes and not those who are in the tax system. Those who are
Mhm.
not in the tax system in Ghana typically are low income people, your market
Mhm.
vendors, your taxi workers, your
Mhm.
hairdressers. And so it seems to me that a large number of those will not benefit because they're paying taxes because they're paying taxes. And it is the result of the policies that those who are higher income will benefit and those who are lower income will not benefit. Now, you mean
Mhm.
to tell me that that's the plan? That was what they're intended all along, for poor children, lower income children, not to benefit from this? That is a ridiculous policy, and
Mhm.
5 minutes worth of thought would have let them know that it was a ridiculous policy and that it needed to be changed. I would not be
Mhm.
surprised to see them say that no, they're gonna have to change this policy in a couple of minutes in the same way that they had to announce that they're gonna give people who are renting as well this cash grant. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, this it really doesn't take more than 5 minutes for you to sit down if you genuinely care about children in the country to
Mhm.
realize, oh wait, this policy is gonna miss all the children that it is intended to assist. That is ridiculous to me. The other thing we want to double down on to really highlight is that we believe that unless you're making $400,000 in this country a month, you should not be paying any income taxes. The only taxes you're paying, as Sherwin has indicated there, is off of the income above that $400,000. We are living in a wealthy country, a country with a per capita GDP when you adjust for prices of 80,000 US per person. 80,000
Mhm.
US is nearly as high as the United States' per capita GDP. We do not need to be pressing people to pay taxes, but rather we need to provide them that relief. Of course, it will help with immediate access to funds to weather the cost of living crisis. But we also believe that it will generate greater growth of the economy because people will be able to spend more and to be able to develop local businesses as there's more demand. We believe that will
Mhm.
generate more jobs as, of course, local businesses will hire more people to meet this demand. And we
Mhm.
believe that it will encourage people to enter the workforce, whether it is young people, whether it is women, people who may have that will have benefits to the growth of the economy, the overall GDP performance of the economy, the diversification of the economy. So this
Mhm.
is a tax measure which many, I think, have been crying out for, which we believe must be implemented as quickly as possible. And it is a measure which will have tremendous benefits to this economy, tremendous benefits. So the PVP with the little 100,000 tax threshold, they're not in the same ballpark as us. We believe this thing should be raised all the way up to $400,000 in the shortest time possible, and that we should proceed going forward like that, as well as, of course, simplifying this tax code so it's only the 100,000, the money above the $400,000, sorry, that you'd be taxed on. That is the way that they should be approached. So what we're saying is these are well thought out approaches on our end, policies that have significant benefits. We've described the benefits, we've described the mechanisms, and on the other end, just abject chaos with PvP, where
Mhm.
even when they claim to have good intentions, it takes 2 seconds to realize that the policy is not going to actually benefit the people that are really most in need.
Mhm. Um, Chairman made a point, about whether that persons in terms of their friends, family, and favorites in regard to the health grant that may arrive as a problem. And one of the things we have to look for, because we know sometimes when they do these things, there are specific places that are listed for you to, whether it is the case of getting drugs, because we know right now you go to a lot of the health centers, the hospitals, you are given a prescription, and when you go, you get one out of maybe the five that you have or the four that you have, and you're sent to a drugstore to purchase the rest. And I rather believe this is although they have been saying that the opposition is lying about the shortage, or lack thereof or hiding of drugs, whichever way it's going in these facilities, that this is a signal that you're trying to cushion that very thing. So people can now go and use that money, cash, whatever, grant, however they're doing it, at a drugstore or a hospital if they need checkup. What I am imploring, and I hope, and Guyanese and business people outside, I mean, regular household pharmacies in different communities, you know, you have your small community pharmacies, should be able to benefit if that's the way they want to go. So you shouldn't be able to tell persons which drugstore they can go to or which hospital they can go to. If you want to call this up, do this. Let us see some transparency when it comes to that. Allow the small drugstores within those communities to benefit, so people as well don't have to go all the way to town to one of you friend business or one of you family business to receive some drugs or to go and get a checkup. They can go right in their community, because most communities have a drugstore, and do just that. So I want to point that out and call them out, and Guyanese should call them out on that as well, and ensure we're not forced to use these grants at places that we don't want to use them. We are not against business people making any money, but don't tell us which business to shop at. Allow us to choose where we want to go and shop at. And I thought that that was a point that we needed to make. Let us. We're almost over our hour, but I think we'll have a little bit more. Um, we have the opportunity to go a little longer today, being it's Saturday and it's a special edition. The next thing I want us to talk about before I pull up a list where the president said a whole lot of things in his speech that I want us to deal with, and then of course us going to outline some of those policies that were the numbers were given for yesterday, because we know Elson, the leader, the panels on the press conferences for since 2022 has been discussing different policy implementation once in government, but we have more numbers and more figures now to discuss. Another big topic, free UG. That's the next big topic. It's trending on Facebook. Everybody's talking about it. Let's talk about that. Free UG, the announcement.
Yeah,
Elson, I'll go
yeah.
with you first on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, many people would have known me first from the Free UG movement, where I was pushing for many years, since I think 2014, for University of Guyana to be free. What I would say is, I can't believe it's taken the PPP this long. The drag the feet, the make it seem like if it's some big, difficult task to make the University of Guyana free. It is just ridiculous. But at the same time, I'm happy that the university is free. I just want to throw out a caution, which Janish Manipal mentioned, which is a caution that many other University Ghana students have mentioned, which is the government has said tuition free, but there are many other fees attached to that university, miscellaneous fees,
Correct.
facilities fees. They need to make it clear that there'll be no fees whatsoever charged at the university, which is how it
Mhm.
was in the past. That's just to make the university free, but rather you have to invest in the university and its students. We've spoken at length about the need to put more money into University of Ghana to fund research and development, to better pay lecturers, and we've spoken about giving each student. We want to give 50,000 students $50,000 per month as a student stipend to encourage people
Mhm.
to study and to help them to deal with the costs associated with study. That may be transportation costs. A taxi from town into UG is very expensive. Getting a laptop,
All right. I think we just lost Elson Chairman.
Thanks. Elson was actually hitting the hammer on the nail, properly laying out our policy positions with regards to UG, and contrasting that to what these half baked ideas coming out from the People's Progressive Party. You would recall that I remember Elson saying that UG is free about a year ago in our book. As the PNC, we considered UG to be already free. Elson, I think you
He's
said that
back.
about a year ago. We said it that
Yes.
UG is basically free for us. But some observation. We're not certain what exactly the People's Progressive Party is actually saying. In one script, you're seeing these posts, oh, free UG. But then when you get into some details, when you go to Priya Manichan page and some other places on the president page, you're seeing free tuition. So it seems as though it is the tuition that they're removing and not all these other fees that Elsa rightfully laid out, lab fees. I recall, and they're significant. These fees are by no means insignificant. They're very, very significant. They cost a lot. I recall my days of going UG, and that's a long time ago. We had to put, this was an unofficial fee for handouts. There are
Mm-hmm.
certain lecturers that you won't really see them. It's not secondary school, it's university you're dealing with, and they will come. And by the end of that session, they might come 2 or 3 times per semester. And at the end of that session, they leave like an entire thick book, thousands of pages for you to photocopy. And you have to get those handouts, or else you wouldn't be able to get through that course. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, it will cost you thousands upon thousands of dollars. When I was there, I would have had to ration my money and put, I think, about 8,000, $6,000 to $8,000 aside to deal with just that. And this is many years ago. I'm talking about 2003. So with the increase in cost of living and the price rise in every single thing, I could imagine that would. I'm not the economist, but Elson, I'm sure Elson will tell you, that that might be 15,000, $20,000 in terms of handouts. So
Mm-hmm.
apparently their plan does not cover that. I wouldn't be surprised though that they come back after we criticize them. They come back to say that, yes, this will be included and that will be included, because that is what they do. They make up this plan as they go along, as Ali honestly said to that reporter on BBC or CNN. I think it was what, BBC reporter. They
Yeah.
make up this plan. They're under pressure, and so they're not really concerned about UG. They could have made this thing University of Guyana free since they came in. It was the PPP who took away the free education to start with. The PNC made education free from nursery all the way to tertiary. There was a time in this country when you had to pay for primary education, you had to pay big bucks for secondary education. We made that free without oil many, many decades that before I was born. That was free. So imagine what they can do now. What we have the resources, we have the means of doing it, but they just don't want to do it. They come out with these half-baked ideas because elections just around the corner, and they know the opposition is saying from day one, UG will be free. We will be giving stipends to students. 50,000, as Elson said, and that is a key part of our strategy, because again, there is no point in focusing only on infrastructure and these programs that will not really impact the lives of people directly and in a significant way. You have to develop your human resource, and education is key. And as the new government, we will focus heavy on education. If you look at education and training, if you look at Singapore, you look at even China, it is a lot of education and training, a lot of education and training. That is what actually builds a nation. And as a party, we will take a strong stance with that.
Elson.
Yeah, absolutely. The development, the accumulation of human capital, building up skills, building up education, building up qualifications so that you can get higher paying jobs is critical. We don't want
Mm-hmm.
it to be a situation where in Guyana only foreign people coming in can get high paying jobs, but rather Guyanese must be able to access these jobs. They're not going to be able to access them unless we train them and we educate them appropriately. That is what we are saying. The 5450 program is designed to incentivize people to study so that we can have a similar level of human capital within a 20, 30-year period that you'd see in a developed country. Under the PVP's current systems, you're not going to see anywhere near that level of capital, human capital accumulation. And we want to point out this $50,000 number is not just a number plucked out of the sky, but we had
Mm-hmm.
consultations. I spoke with senior people at the University of Guyana. I spoke with people from the executive, the student society executive, had a chat with them about their costs, what would really move the needle for them, and so on. And so that's where we got this $50,000 number from. It is not just as you see with the PVP, you pull a number from the sky, you announce it randomly, and so on. No, it is that is a number that we had consultations with, and when we look at the a number of people, as an example, who don't have maths and English, in order to ensure that across the society, the vast majority of Guyanese have basic qualifications. You have to train about 50,000 people a year in order to get those types of things going, or if not math and English, at least they have
Mm-hmm.
skills like plumbing, AC repair, electrical skills that will help them to get a good paying job, construction skills. That is absolutely necessary. And our vision for Guyana is not just that you have a lot of roads all over the place and nobody has a good job, but
Mm-hmm.
rather that we develop our non-oil industries by having an educated population. And we have pointed out that the IDB has indicated Guyana's adoption of technology, new technologies, innovation is the lowest in the Caribbean and Latin America, really, or they're
Mm-hmm.
typically the lowest. So, if you have an educated population, they can push innovation. They can push the adoption of these technologies into businesses. They can do research. We said
Mm-hmm.
earlier on this show that we want to provide funding to the University of Guyana for research. There needs to be research and development. Let's say you've got a particular coffee that is produced here. There's some good coffee produced. You need to do research. What are the benefits of this coffee? So that can be used in the marketing of the coffee. You can market it internationally. And all of a sudden, you have a big brand like a Folgers or a coffee house and so on. You can build your local brands up if you do the research, and of course, if you provide them the funding, which is what we also intend to do by way of the Small Business Bureau and also by
Mm-hmm.
way of the National Productivity Development Bank, which is going to provide larger loans to to businesses, both medium and large businesses. So the point is, we see the shortfalls of the economy, and our policies are designed to deal with those shortfalls. The PP's policies are designed to find avenues for them to steal. And sadly,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely typical. The PUP's policies being designed to find avenues for them to steal is typical of kleptocracies and oil economies. That is totally normal, sad to say. And just to close off a point here is that in Equatorial Guinea, which is the most corrupt country in the world, we have 75% of people living in poverty, but they produce an oil. They've got a per capita GDP similar to Spain. 75% of their budget is spent on infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Guyana, we've seen that share of the budget spent on infrastructure creep up from 40 to 50 to nearly 60%. They're heading towards Equatorial Guinea. And the decision not to pay public servants, not to deal with the cost of living crisis, not to divert funds away from the infrastructure theft sounds a lot like the type of thing you would see in Equatorial Guinea. It is sad to me that Ghana is heading towards being the most corrupt country in the entire world.
Mm-hmm. And that is why Guyanese have to do their part. And when it comes to those elections, even as we take all that our taxpayers' money will afford us as they seek to bribe, as they seek to pay, Guyanese must understand we take it and we go to the polls and we do what is right for our country to take us away from that this downward spiral that we're rapidly going down, because like you rightfully said, we are seeing poverty increasing in an oil rich nation. And it can only be so because we have a government who is corrupt, incompetent, and unwilling to look after its citizens. Guyana is such a it's a large mass with so little people. You talked earlier about our economy, the per capita per person is almost to that of the USA, and we aren't even quarter the size in population of the USA. So why should we be experiencing what we're experiencing at this time? I want us to touch a little because I said we're talking about, the announcement. I've been looking at social media posts, going back and forth on the issue as well. And I wanted us to talk about some of that. Um, there is, in the president's speech in this case, he would have talked about the threshold during the APNU time merely being, in his view, $65,000. This is in 2020. We're currently in 2024, where I want us to hammer in the point of in 2024, this country has made maybe more than triple times what we had in 2020. And he is now seeking to raise the threshold to $100,000. Let's talk about that.
I assume you wanted me to come in, or is it
Go ahead,
Elson you're
Chairman.
in?
And then we'll get
No,
to else.
you're absolutely correct. I often remind people that when we took government in 2015, the 2015 budget was just $221 billion. When we left government uh, in 2020, the 2020 budget, I believe, was just $300 billion. So you're absolutely correct. In fact, you're putting it a little lightly there. It's more like four times the 2020 budget, 1.2 something $1 trillion, and counting because they went back to the National Assembly for more monies, and they will go back again.
Mhm.
The for the first half of 2024. I think they had, if I remember correctly, they made just short of, up to June, they made just short of that 300 billion in oil, just in oil revenue garnered
Mhm.
from the oil. I think it was 280 something billion, close to 290 billion, just from the oil at the half year mark, or not quite the half year mark. I think it was a 5 month report. Elson might be able to back me up there. But just giving you some context, that is the kind of monies that we are making. There is no reason. There is no
Mhm.
reason why the threshold can't go up to $400,000. Irfan Ali is now talking about 100,000 at the end of 2025, I believe. That's madness. That's madness. And for him to refer to our threshold at 65,000, it's just ludicrous. We had those monies, and you had to consider what the economy was like at that time, what the cost of living was like at that time. It wasn't that
Right.
high. So you're comparing apples and oranges. It's not. It's
Mhm.
simply not the same thing. Could we talk about, therefore, as he wants to go down that route? Could we say what was the threshold in 2015? I believe it was about $35,000. So what trash is
Just
he
under
talking?
35.
We
So it
we
went
moved.
a 100%.
Yes, we moved that thing to close to 100% in terms of the threshold. We moved. You would recall, Shanika, we those people cleaners, those poor class of workers, we moved
Mm-hmm.
them from 39,300 or something like that, all the way to $70,000. We
Mm-hmm.
moved those salaries and we moved the threshold at the same time. I remember us giving them $50,000 bonus at Christmas time. We did wonders with little money. We did wonders with little money. And I'm saying to the nation that once we get government, when we get government next year, we're going to be able to do bigger miracles in this country in the form of improving the lives of every single Guyanese. We have a people centered development strategy which is aimed at putting the resources of this country in the hands of people. We will make direct cash transfers and indirect transfers through a barrage of programs that are properly structured and aimed at bringing the quality of life, a high standard of life to especially the poor and the middle class, the middle income people. So we will have a totally different approach. Sometimes I don't worry with Irfan and Barjack, these lies that they tell. They're in government for they're in their fifth term, in their fifth year, not term, in their fifth year. And at this point, you're still blaming the APNU. Oh, you guys only had a threshold of 65,000. You didn't do the right thing. That's why electricity, we're getting blackouts. Every single thing it's on up no, and these guys is like if we're still in government, we are still got they're afraid of a set of people that hadn't the kind of resources. You know why? Because they saw what we did and how we transformed this country with little bit of money, and they know what we will do with now that we have much more money.
Mm-hmm. Elfin.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing that we have to remind Guyanese about is that while they're trying to talk about this 65,000 tax threshold, we have come out and said this tax threshold needs to be at $400,000. Now, why are we saying that? We're saying that because we recognize the growth of the economy. We
Mm-hmm.
recognize also the size of the national budget, and therefore we can accommodate it. $60 billion is give or take is what this is going to cost in terms of this change to the tax threshold. Now in
Mm-hmm.
2015, with a 220 billion budget, you can't do $60 billion. You
Correct.
can't you can expense like that. But if your budget is in excess of $1 trillion, and you can
Mm-hmm.
easily accommodate $60 billion tax threshold change. So the fact that they aren't even in this neighborhood, they are not even in this neighborhood, just shows you
Mm-hmm.
how far behind they are in their thinking. Between last year and
Mm-hmm.
this year, those two budgets is 10 years worth of spending. 10 years worth of spending. And they
Mm-hmm.
still talk about a measly change of 35,000 from 65 to 100,000 of a tax threshold. That is what they have to say. They're not in the game. They don't understand what's going on, and they're relying on us for their ideas, as you can see with this cash grant,
Yeah.
because they don't have ideas of their own. They don't know how to run the country, and they don't have a clear understanding of what's going on. I was even explaining to someone recently that one of the reasons they're always finding themselves in electricity shortfall is because they do not understand the changes to the economy. So as a result,
Mm-hmm.
they're planning as if it's the old economy. They're not recognizing that as higher income jobs are coming in from the oil industry and foreigners are coming in and so on, those people have to have AC. They are not staying in any place without AC. So that is
Mm-hmm.
driving up electricity consumption. So you have to, which is
Mm-hmm.
what we have said, you need
Mm-hmm.
to ensure you have a buffer of something like 50 megawatts above your general capacity, so that if there's an unexpected spike due to people coming into the country and industry developing, you can deal with that. But if you have
Right.
no clue what you're doing, you're gonna run it right to the edge, like they've been running it right to the edge, brinksmanship,
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna say
Mhm.
ridiculous things like you're bringing in power for CPL, and CPL come and gone, and the power in install. I mean, it's like it's beyond belief, you know. It's beyond belief. I don't know how they could have thought that was a reasonable thing to say. So this is really a manifestation of a government that is all at sea. On the flip side, our policies are carefully calibrated given the nature of the economy, given the changes to the economy. We've been talking about these things for years now, and it has been shown that what we've been saying has been correct. Didn't we forewarn on more than one occasion that the government was not providing enough electricity
Correct, you
capacity,
did.
enough generation capacity? Yeah, on more than one occasion, we said, no, this is not enough. You're going to cause a blackout shortage. Boom, blackout shortage. No, this is not enough. I mean, and it's as if these people are not understanding that they need to sit down and reevaluate what they're doing. But of course, if you're focused on stealing, you're not going to have the time to reevaluate going on. And so you have people getting blackouts every single day. People getting blackout multiple times a day. People getting blackout. People getting blackout for 4 or 5 hours, sometimes 12 hours. I mean, it's unbelievable. And you're claiming that this power ship that you brought would have solved the problem. We said then that you need additional capacity and that you need to focus on the maintenance of this grid. That
Mhm.
is not what they've been up to. And so as a result, this crisis has perpetuated, and in fact, it looks like it'll continue until probably January, which is when the additional power, if it comes through, when additional power will be installed. Power that we told them since February, I think of this year, or April of this year, that this
Mhm.
should
Should
install.
generate. I
Yeah.
remember that clearly. The one you talk about, how they are comparing and talking about things that in most cases make no sense. I also noted that in the president's speech, he said that the coalition government did not prioritize the Linden Highway. I think because they're so accustomed to not giving people information, not having persons understand what is happening, and I think they forget that a lot of the persons they're talking to live in Guyana. One of the things that I want to say about that before I allow you to comment is that under the PNC government prior to 1992, the plan to renovate and do that road was put in place with money being allocated, and the government changed. And the very PPP, President Ali's government, who is now making this comment, to this date, we have no account for what happened to that money, and we had no renovation of the road in 23 years of their government. 23 years from 1992 to 2015. Money already allocated to upgrade the Linden Dyke Highway. We heard zero talk of it and nothing was done. But the founder leader of this party, although you had all these life given for road projects and bridge, these roads and these bridges that were built under our great PNCR leader stood the test of time. It hasn't been repaired yet, and it's still standing despite in a bad shape now. And I want to talk about why we're at this state. It was on the re-entrance. We already know that plans were afoot under the coalition, not only to repair the road, but to light the road right through the highway. But when they came in, they put a pause on that. And then they started to hand out sandpits left, right, and center close to the road. And now the condition that we see is the cause of putting sandpits next to the road. So the roads are sinking and becoming waves a different standpoint. But he has the gall and the nerve to mention Linden Highway in his speech. That is the height of craziness of the people that we're talking about. Let's comment on that. Chairman, I guess chairman
I'm
is
not
not.
certain that I can see. I can you get me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, I was just saying that you hit the hammer on the nail. There isn't much more that I can say that you didn't say. These people have been in government for 27 of the last 32 years. The last 3 decades, they have been there for 27 years, and yet they try to operate like this thing began in 2015. Guyana started in 2015. With regards to the Linden, this was like Linden Highway, they're forgetting that it was the PNC, the largest partner in the coalition, who built that road.
Mhm.
I think we commissioned it in 1968, and it's supposed to be a 20-year project, for a
Yes.
lifetime for that road. And um, in 1990, Monies were available. I think what happened is that you had a principal position in those days that once you get into an election period, you don't undertake any major
Correct.
project, infrastructural project, or that sort of thing. That was the old way, the principal position that the PNC took. Desmond High took it at that time. But you have an unprincipled position when you get into
I think we probably lost the chairman there. Chairman?
Well, I can
yes.
just as yeah, yeah, Chairman, you're back. Well, while the
I
chairman
am
Go
back.
is
ahead.
It's a
connecting there.
call that came in. That
Disturb the
Oh, sure,
the
sure.
it's a call that
go
came in
ahead.
that showed me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Chairman.
Yes, just bear with me 1 second. Yes, I was saying, so we had a principled government. We respected norms. Unfortunately, this government doesn't operate that way. We will see them doling out more monies, emptying the treasury, if they can, if that is possible. As we get into that closer to the election period. We will see a lot more infrastructural works. We just saw Jack Dew announce some $7 billion in worth in contracts in Berbice, and this kind of electioneering process they will do. But going back to the road, that road stood the test of time because we planned properly. We had the right agencies doing it. We didn't involve in the kind of corruption that they are now involved in. So the people got their money's worth, if I can say that. If you compare it to the kind of roads that you're seeing now, just around Elson's corner, close to Congress Place, you'd see that road that is being done from Conversation Tree the through that road there. If you drive along there, you would already notice that the road is caving. It's going into
Mhm.
the trench.
Mhm.
Lots of ditches there already, from huge ditches there. And these are billions of dollars we're talking about. So
Mhm.
within another few weeks, you will see another contractor benefiting from another maybe $100 million in repairs. We saw the Thomas Road. Is it Thomas Road alongside the army? Um, the
Thomas
army
Lands.
I here at Thomas Lands Road there. We've
Yeah.
seen that do time and time again. Remember the controversy? As soon as it was done, you had degradation. You had it disintegrating, and then Edgel came out to say that that the contractor will have to do it. Well, he did whatever he had to do. The time for the liabilities passed, and then the road just broke up again. So they're doing a complete road once again within about 2 years, within about 2 years or less, maybe less than 2 years. And so when they come, these hypocrites come to talk about no, didn't cater for the Linden Road. They're trying to just make a silly pitch to Lindeners to try to say, oh, we don't care about Linden and these kind of not trash. If they cared for Linden, they would have done that road a long time now. Um, they have the resources to do it, especially since they came in 2020. They would have a properly conceived rehabilitation there, most likely in the form of a 4-lane road. Because if you're aiming to come from Brazil in with the 4-lane from Letem coming up to the you're doing the Mabura Road now, which we should take credit for as well. But let's just stick to the point. You're coming with that broad road there,
Mm-hmm.
and on the east bank you're doing a double road as well, a 4-lane road as well. Why is it between the east bank to Linden you must have a single lane road? It's just nonsensical. It's just nonsensical. So this is just them
Hot
blowing
air.
our tear around the place and trying to fool people. They forget what the PPP forget, I think, is that they're not in the era of the 90s when they were in power, those 23 years when social media was non-existent or not prevalent. Now
Mm-hmm.
people could have access. They have access to more information. They when they listen to you, they can go back and fact check you and all these things. They can go on the internet and Google something. From the time you lie about it, they go and they pull up the truth. And so they're trapped in the past of the old politics, where politicians come and tell a lie. Politicians like Jack Dio come and they lie the way through, and and think that the population will just buy it. They're just gullible, so gullible that they will buy it. They won't. Not in this era.
Mr. Lowe.
Yes, absolutely. And the point about the need for the Linden Suzuki Highway to be, first of all, a 4-lane road, and second of all, the fact that it stood so long, I think those are two critical points. I can't understand that our finale having pioneered or focused on Diamond, which created a giant traffic jam because it didn't have the appropriate road network, would go
Mm-hmm.
and focus on Silica City and not put in place the appropriate road network. So it's almost as if they're not learning from their previous mistakes. I don't know who's going to go and live at Silica City is the other thing, but at minimum, we needed to see more done in terms of of expanding the Linden Suzuki Highway. It to me is just typical of the way that they think that you're looking to resurface this road and so on in the way that we're looking at, you know 23, well, that be but 30 years now, that we were looking at it. So it's almost as if the thinking hasn't advanced in that entire 30-year period regarding that particular stretch of road. That to me is pretty ridiculous. The other thing that is something that we continue to highlight to Guyanese, and then Sherman mentioned some points there, is in fact, actually, I was speaking to a senior person from a multilateral agency, and they said, the PPP doesn't have anything to show for all the money it's spent because its roads, the roads they built, are crumbling. We've
Mm-hmm.
talked about the Thomas Lands. You talked about right in front of Congress Place there, that road. You when you look at Grove, I was chatting with someone who was telling me, no, man, Grove Road only was redone twice, and they were confident that Grove Road was only redone twice. Totally confident when they're saying that. But Grove Road had been redone 3 times before to that point. That road has been problematic throughout, and even had the minister who's responsible, Minister Ezreal, saying that the road was the problem is the road is not meant. Yes, you had the minister saying that the problem is the road is not meant for trucks. Well, all Guyanese who pay any kind of attention, all Guyanese who traverse that road, know that it is trucks that go up and down that road. And so it's no wonder that the road continues to be destroyed. The Grove stretch continues to be destroyed. That is a classic example, again, of lack of planning. And that is what you're seeing from the PUP, where they build a road that doesn't have the specifications to withstand the trucks that are going on the said road. And as a result, the road deteriorates almost immediately. Um, of course, the negative side of this is that the cost to taxpayers is tremendous. There's a huge financial cost to taxpayers, and we must call them out for this and help people to understand that that is money that could instead have been going towards salaries, that could instead have been going towards a social safety net with various cash grants, that could instead have been going towards raising the tax threshold. Those monies that are lost due to incompetence and corruption are monies that could have had a real impact on your life. And so it's no wonder the people can't talk about raising the tax threshold to 400,000. If the roads that they're building, they have to go and take that same 60 billion to go and rebuild those roads.
Mhm. I am looking in the comment section and I'm happy to have our former Minister of Finance here. And he is pointing out that in the 2019 budget, 134 million was allocated to execute studies and design for the rehabilitation of the 72 km Linden Soosdijk Highway. So that is already in the records to ensure that we had a proper road system set up for the Linden Soosdijk Highway. I'm happy to have that information from the minister there. Thank you so much. I want us to pull up Mr. Chairman and Elson. One of the things that was announced or talked about in our press conference yesterday, that is some of the things that we intend to implement. I'm hoping my operator pulls it up. Let's talk about that, Elson.
Yes, absolutely. As we have indicated, the country's economy has grown sharply. We now have adjusting for prices. If you can imagine it, adjusting for prices, a per capita GDP that is nearly as high as the United States is $80,000 per person, given the tremendous growth that has occurred due to the oil industry. We need now to be designing policies to give citizens full benefit and to incentivize the growth of the non-oil industry. We need to ensure that we have policies that incentivize the growth of the non-oil industry.
All right. Chairman, are you there? Because I think I've lost Elson. He seems to be having
Yes, yeah,
mhm.
yes, yes, yes. We're having a little trouble with the internet. Yes, this is our plan as you have on the screen there. We think that we're at the point where we have the kind of resources. Oh, Elson is back. Elson is back. I'll have him go as the
Yes, yes.
economist again.
Go.
We've been having a spotty time with the internet today, Chairman. If it's not one thing, it's the next. But the point essentially is that there's a lot of benefits that come from this. And we recognize that given the economy has grown so much, we can push the tax threshold to this level. And it is not that we need to rely on income tax really so much for revenue as in the past, but rather that we want to incentivize people to work more. We want people who are out of the workforce to rejoin the workforce. And it has been shown in other countries that adjustments to people's earnings, such as we've talked about the earned income tax credit, which is similar in that it provides you more money if you are working and if you're at the low end of the income scale. But we've talked about the way that you can use your tax policy to incentivize more people to enter the workforce. Guyana
Mhm.
has a low labor force participation rate. Well, I see there's someone commenting, y'all don't talk everything before they run with it. We want Guyanese to benefit
Benefit.
immediately. We want Guyanese to benefit. Our heart is in the right place in that regard. But we also, when we look at it, these guys are nowhere near reality. If it took them 2 years to come to their senses when it comes to that 60
Cash
billion
flow.
cash grant, then what are you
Mhm.
talking about? Till in 2026? No, we'll be in office by 2026.
Correct
That's
is
when they
right.
will catch on. That's when they will catch on. Then you'll hear them say 450,000 tax threshold. That's when they will catch on. Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But yes, Guyana has one of the lowest labor force participation rates in the world. That means a lot of people are not actually working in the country. And a lot of our policies are designed, this is one of them, to encourage people to work so that we can continue to grow the non oil economy, so we can continue to push our country forward. And
Mhm.
we also want to, through providing citizens the capacity to spend more, to develop local industries so that there's more demand, people produce more, there's more employment, and so on. That is something that we see as really useful. So we want to make it clear that this is one of our positions going forward, and that the PPP is miles behind, still talking about $100,000 a month tax threshold.
Mhm. Thanks. Chairman.
Yes, Elson is absolutely right. The PPP is not, you see, this measure might not allow them to steal money. And once any program that is being done that doesn't have the scope for corruption, they're not really interested in it. The president is now talking about $100,000 threshold, and nurses, no nurse, no healthcare worker will earn less than 100,000. This guy is so disconnected from the ordinary Guyanese. $100,000 can't even do to support a single parent in this
Mhm.
country per month. It can't. It cannot work. you know. And this guy is talking about that in this oil-rich Guyana with 1 point something trillion budget. Look, every hour about $65 million we making per hour. Nearly 2 billion, over 1.5 billion per day we're making just on oil. If you
Mhm.
leave out all the other resources, and the other sectors are benefiting too from the oil industry. The non-oil sectors are benefiting tremendously, or should be benefiting tremendously once you manage it properly in a prudent manner. And so I agree with Elson. If finally this government is stuck in they're really stuck in a position where they're disconnected. They don't understand the sufferings out there, and they're unwilling to focus their attention and their programs and aim these programs at lifting people out of poverty. I believe that some politicians prefer to have the masses in poverty. And so
Mhm.
every now and then you can come like Father Christmas, or people say Father Christmas, you come like Father Christmas, and you give out a little grant here and a little grant there, and
Mhm.
people will worship you for that. But that is not a Guyana that we see. That is not a Guyana that we envision. We see a Guyana where all of our people, the full 800,000 of us, can able to work for a livable income, can able to have monies to take care of our basic needs, for our a little savings for our children. We want to give people real wealth. We want everybody to become wealthy in Guyana. And so this $400,000 tax-free threshold is one of the ways in which we will do it. It will leave much more money in people's pockets. People won't mind working um, in the legitimate streams because they're earning more. You'll find that
Mhm.
certain people now will migrate from doing illegal kinds of businesses and so because when they work in the formal sector, they can earn much more. The tax now is not a time to tax people. Now is not a time that the PPP loves to talk about coalition 200 taxes. Up to now they can't name it, but they love to sell that propaganda. But there they are trying to offer people $100,000. $100,000 is $3,333 per day. 3 grand can't cut it. Everybody knows that laborers want $6,000 to $8,000. That's at the laborer level, and I don't give them wrong because that is what it takes to live comfortably
Mhm.
in Guyana in this
Mhm.
economy. So clearly, we have a better plan. I wouldn't be surprised that they will. I think Elsie hinted at it that they might come back to say, well, and up that number. Oh, they come in with 500 or the same thing or the same 400. They love to do that. They love to do that so that the attention they neutralize your project.
Once the people benefit, I at this point we're happy. Like I saw a comment on Facebook, the young lady said, collect the money and go and vote them out. That's what we intend to do. Either way, as we wrap up today's program, I mean, we went for well over a half an hour and a half today. As we wrap up this program today, I want you to make one other comment. Maybe Elson can touch on this because today the flyer that we just had up, I think it was Travis Chase who shared it on his profile, and of course,
Sure.
it triggered a very in-depth discussion. And of course, there were those persons saying, "Oh, that isn't even possible. How will they? If you don't get taxes, what will happen?" What do you say, Elson, to persons who are saying that?
Thank you very much, Shanika. Listen, at the end of the day, that's we see that as being roughly $60 billion being the cost of that. There'll still be some people who will be paying taxes, but those will be people earning right at the top of the income scale. People earning quite a substantial number. But when you have a national budget that is 1.1, I think it's one trillion or 50 billion, you know, if you take off a 60 billion from that, what are you looking at? You're still looking at a budget that's over $1 trillion. I mean,
Mhm.
that is easily affordable in the context of the size of the national budgets we have right now, in the context of the size of the GDP, in the context of the revenues received, and in the context of the revenues that are forecast are to be received. It is well within any range. What it is that the government hasn't really put two and two together, but this is 100% the case. You can't have a national budget triple in only a few years, triple, and you just move this tax threshold as a small bit, a small bit. You're not serious. You don't really take seriously the developments of the country. And so what we are saying is, we can this is very much affordable, and it will have several economic benefits going forward. And we would also say to Guyanese this: we don't want to see a country where Guyanese can't earn a $400,000. Our goal, which we repeat time and time again, is we're trying to develop high paying jobs for Guyanese. We're not in the business of creating a whole load of part time jobs where you're getting a 40 or 50,000 a month and you're punishing. We're not in the business of creating jobs for farmers where the farmers are not productive and they can barely make ends meet. We're not in the business of creating manufacturing jobs that are not paying well, so people don't want to work in the factories. We are not even thinking in that direction, which is what the PP seems to be thinking. We are saying it's a wealthy country. Our goal must be to drive high paying jobs. And so many people will be earning beyond this 400,000. But for now, we recognize the tremendous growth that has happened, partially due to the oil industry. And we want to ensure that Guyanese are able to benefit and that Guyanese can really live comfortably in our country rather than the benefits only accruing to the friends, family, and favorites of the PUP and the PUP's elites. No, the broader Guyanese population needs to also benefit.
All right. Thank you so much. Chairman, as we wrap up, what would you I was just distracted by a comment in the section that asked for us to check the PPP's manifesto. And I want to ask the question, where was the PPP's manifesto in 2020? Because after they put out all those posters on the road, 50% increase of public servant, 50,000 jobs, we were told that, it was a fragment of our imagination. And of
Photoshop.
course, there is no PPP manifesto available online for us to see or fact check, even them telling us that. So apparently there was a glitch in the system. All those posts that we saw, all those things nailed on was not so. Let me allow us to close this program. Chairman, your final words to our viewers as we wrap up today. What do you want to leave with our viewers today?
Look, all I would say is that you've had 4 years of the People's Progressive Party. During those 4 years, Guyana moved downwards. We saw crisis after crisis, and we're still in a crisis, a cost of living crisis. There's a corruption crisis, electricity crisis, a whole host of crises under the People's Progressive Party. As soon as they came in. When you contrast that to the kind of government that we had, you hadn't these kinds of troubles, even as we had way less money than these guys have today. Their task they set out is to nail us to anything that is bad. They're attempting to compare apples and oranges. They would tell you a whole host of things that APNU didn't do and they're doing now when they have the resources to do it. And even as they do it, they're embroiled in corruption. They're not doing it properly. They don't have a comprehensive plan for this country. And they don't have, frankly speaking, the people of Guyana, especially the poor people and the lower bracket people, at heart. What they are focused on is family, friends, and favorite. You've had 4 years to see what the PPP is about, and now you know exactly what they're about. And so I urge Guyanese not to be carried away in the next year. It's an elections year. We can expect them to come with all sorts of things, trying to lure you into believing that they care about you. They will spend out the entire treasury if they can, borrowed money inclusive, and to set us back for 5 years. Because when we come into government, we will have to clean up those mess, and we are prepared to do just that. But we are also prepared to establish or implement rather our people-centered development strategy, which will focus on putting resources in the hands of the people, all the people, without any favor, without any discrimination. We will put the resources of this country into the hands of the people. We will develop programs. You're already seeing the kinds of people-centered programs that we are putting out. All of those are focused on the poor and middle class people. It is focused on making your lives better, and not in a one-off way or in a haphazard way. It is in a complete structured fashion that by the end of maybe a few years, maybe our first term, the next term in government, all Guyanese will be able to be at a particular standard. As I always say, there is no point in saying that we are progressing if all of us, all 800,000 of us, are not progressing, but only a few. And so in closing, I want to urge Guyanese to see this for what it is, listen to our programs, pay attention to our policy position, and when you get to that stage of voting, make the right decision. Make the right choice for yourself, not only for yourself, but for your children, the generation to come, and your country as a whole. We will be a better government than the People's Progressive Party. A better government for the country, a better government for all the people of Guyana.
Thank you so much. Elton, any final words from you?
Well, Shanika, I think I'll keep it short to say this. It is crystal clear that we are the people who understand this economy, understand what is going on in this country, understand the struggles of the average Guyanese, and have the plans to actually improve people's lives. When it comes to who people should think, who citizens should think, who Guyanese should think should be represented in this country, we are the ones who should be represented.
All right. I think we lost Elson again. I want to say to our viewers,
Yes,
oh, you're back
yes.
in.
I
Please
was
go
just
ahead.
singing. I was just singing
Go
closing.
ahead.
There's no point in relying on a government that doesn't know what it is doing. What you
Mhm.
have to do is to put in place a government that does know what it is doing, and that has pushed the ideas and the really has a good sense of the direction of the country, so that you can get the best benefit. The PPP right now is just chasing us. They're years behind us.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Lowe. I want to, thank our viewers for being with us today. And as I always like to remind you, every citizen has a responsibility to help us keep the government in check. It is our responsibility as well, taking the facts into consideration when it comes to the next general and regional election, that we must weigh our options well and understand that under a coalition government, a PNCR, APNU led government, that Guyanese are going to be prioritized at all costs, and the living conditions and standards will not be as it is now, as we are going to use the oil revenues to better the lives of all Guyanese, and not just friends, families, and favorites, but all Guyanese, to ensure that we do not experience what is noted as the oil curse, or, being an oil rich country with poor people everywhere. Guyana is a blessed country, and we have no right to be in the current position. So, come next election, choose wisely. I want to ask you as well to stay tuned to our page, keep posted on what's happening, the conversation. We're going to be having lots more shows and things to highlight issues. So pay attention to our platforms as we keep you updated and we keep the discussion going, as we continue to do the work, as we continue to hold the government accountable. We ask for your support, and when the time comes, we'll do the right thing. Thank you to my viewers. Do have a wonderful weekend.